All right, and we are going to wrap up our unit on solving. And the good news is there's nothing new to teach you, right? So you know everything that you need to know. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, okay, what do I have to do? What do I need to do if I don't know a particular math fact? And we've hit on that a little bit as we've gone through the lessons, but we really want to kind of formalize that, all right now. So what we're going to do is kind of go back and forth between kind of a problem that we've seen before and then some problems where we were not going to know the mathematical fact right off hand, and then how do we handle that? Okay, and I'm going to kind of work these side by side so we can see that process. All right, so now if we go through the problems, now once again, it's all the same stuff, right? Okay, what kind of function do I have? It's linear, all right? So I'm expecting one solution, all right? I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any like terms to combine, all right? So then my next question is it equal to 0? And the answer is no, so I'm going to make it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 18, all right, from both sides, all right? So I get 6x and then minus 24 is equal to 0. All right. Now I'm going to work these two problems kind of step by step so you can see how they translate, right? And how they're really the same types of problems. Now, when I look at number 2, all right, so once again, right, I can see it's linear. There's no parentheses, right? So I don't have to distribute. There's no combining like terms. So then my next question is it equal to 0? So notice I make this equal to 0 the same way. If it's a positive number, I have to subtract it, right? I have to do the opposite, all right, to make it, all right, that number. All right, so I'm going to subtract 18.71 from both sides. And once again, I'm going to align it with the number. Now, I don't know that fact. So once again, this is where you're going to probably have to use your calculator, all right, not your phones, all right? So don't get used to using your phone because you're not going to be able to use your phone on your assessment. So you want to make sure you're using the calculator that you're going to use in your, all right, that you're going to have with you on the assessment. So, all right, so then I'd have negative, all right, and the negative bar is right here. So anytime you have a negative, you want to use this symbol right here, okay? So negative, all right, 9.23 minus 18.71. All right, and that gives me negative 27.94. So 6.38x minus 27.94. All right, so notice first step is exactly the same. Get them equal to 0, right? Now we're going to use the 0 property, right? So what minus 24 is 0? The opposite, which is 24. So whatever's behind my hand has to be 24. So 6x equals 24. I'm going to use the 0 property right here. What minus 27.94 is 0? Positive 27.94, right? So that's the good thing about the 0 property. We know they're just opposites. We don't care what the numbers are. They have to be opposites. So that's 27.94. So 6.38x equals 27.94. Now let's look at this problem. Now we're back to multiplication here, right? 6 times something is 24. Well, what is that something? 6 times 4 is 24. Now, let's talk about how do I undo that if you didn't know that fact, right? All right. What is the opposite of multiplication? All right, I'll give you a second to think about that. All right, the opposite of multiplying is division. So if we're multiplying by 6, the way we undo that is we divide by 6. So if I divide this by 6, 6 divided by 6, that gives me the 1x I have right here. And then notice I would divide by 6 here. All right, and then if I do 24 divided by 6, that is where my 4 comes from. All right, now, so if you don't know the fact, right, we have to undo the operation. So now come over here. 6.38 times something is 27.94. I have no idea what that fact is. I can estimate it, right, but I don't know what it is. So the way I undo multiplying by 6.38 is to divide by 6.38. Divide by 6.38. So 6.38 divided by 6.3, undo that, and it leaves us at 1x. And then I just go to my calculator, all right, for the rest here. So 27.94 divided by 6.38. Oh, I did addition. So always, no, I did it right. There we go. It looks like addition on my calculator, but that is division. All right, so 4 point, and let's go to, all right, 2 decimal places. So we typically want to try to match the decimal places in the problem. So if we have 2 decimals here, we want 2 decimals here. So when I look, all right, I'm going to look after the second decimal, I'm going to round up or down. So if this number after whatever we want is 5 or higher, I round up. If it's 4 or lower, round down. So since this is 9, I'm going to round this to 4.38. And there's my answer. All right. So hopefully you see how really the same types of problems. All right. So let's look at problem 3 here. Okay. Absolute value. Okay. I'm assuming 2 solutions. Absolute value for problem 4. I'm assuming 2 solutions. All right. No parentheses. All right. Distribute. No combined like terms. So now my question is it equal to 0? Okay. No, it's not. So since this is negative 10, I have to do the opposite and add 10. and add 10 to make that equal to 0. So 5 times the absolute value of x plus 15 is equal to 0. Well, if I look at number 4, once again, I need to make this equal to 0. Since this is negative, I have to do the opposite. So I need positive 10.3 and positive 10.3 to make that equal to 0. So 5.6 absolute value of x. And then once again, we'll just, all right, do our calculator. 7.1 plus, oops, I get it the right key, plus 10.3, all right, is 17.4 is equal to 0. All right. Now, using the 0 problem, what plus 15 is 0? Negative 15. All right, so 5 times the absolute value of x is equal to negative 15. Okay, what plus 17.4 is 0? Negative 17.4. All right, so we know it's got to be opposites. So that means 5.6 absolute value of x is equal to negative 17.4. Now, once again, you might know this answer, right? 5 times what is negative 15? And the answer would be negative 3. So the absolute value of x is equal to negative 3. Now, once again, I could have done this by undoing multiplication by dividing both sides by 5. And that would have given me that answer. So once again, I don't know this number, right? So I am going to use my formalized math here. I'm going to divide both sides by 5.6, all right, to get my answer. So negative 17.4 divided by 5.6 gives me, and once again, I only have one decimal here. So I'm going to go to one decimal here. So there's this. I'm going to look to the right immediately. This number is 4 or less, so I'm going to just round to 1. All right, round down versus up. So negative 3.1. Now, notice in both of these problems, I have my absolute value equal to a negative number. When the absolute value is equal to a negative number, we know that means no solution, all right, for both of those. All right, moving on. So number 5 and 6 together here. Now, once again, we can see that both of these problems are quadratics, right? So I'm expecting 2 solutions, right? I'm expecting 2 solutions. Now, I don't see any parentheses. I don't have to worry about distributing. I don't see any combined like terms. So let's get it equal to 0. So once again, this is negative 13. So to get this equal to 0, I'm going to add 13. All right, number to number, line those up. So negative 4x squared plus 4 is equal to 0. All right, so once again, I need to make this equal to 0. So since this is negative, I got to do the opposite and add 13.82 to both sides. So negative 4.6x squared. And then once again, using my calculator here. All right, so let me clear that out. All right, so negative 9.43 plus 13.82, right? And it should look exactly the same right here, right? And that would be positive 4.39 is equal to 0. Okay, now we're to the 0 property, right? What plus 4 is 0? Negative 4. All right, so negative 4x squared equals negative 4. What plus 4.39 equals 0? Negative 4.39. So negative 4.6x squared equals that. Now, once again, now it's a multiplication problem. Negative 4 times what is negative 4? Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. So we know x squared has to be 1. But notice I could have undone that with division, right? That leaves me that 1x squared. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. All right, now, so I'm going to do that over here. I have to divide because I don't know that fact. All right, so that leaves me x squared equals, all right, and then I would do negative. All right, so remember, negative is this key down here. All right, so negative 4.39 divided by negative 4.6. All right, now once again, I have 2 decimals here, so I want 2 decimals here. So now I look at the third decimal. All right, it's 4 or less, so I'm going to round to 5 instead of rounding up, so 0.95. Okay, now what number squared is equal to 1? All right, and we know that negative 1 times negative 1 and 1 times 1. All right, now I'm going to show you how to do this on your calculator, right? So how do I undo a square on my calculator in case you need to estimate? All right, so notice, all right, when we look at my calculator, all right, if you look at the x squared key, you can see that we right above this in green here, we have what we call the square root key. All right, the square and square root are opposite of each other in the same way addition and subtraction are opposite to each other, multiplication and division are opposite to each other. So notice if I clear this out, and so if I did this work on my paper here, I'm just going to write it right here, x squared equals 1, we would take the square root of both sides, like that. Now, here's what you have to understand. So if I put that in my calculator, I want to do the square root of 1. So second square root of 1. It gives me 1. It is only going to give you the positive solution. You have to remember that I was expecting 2 solutions. So even though my calculator is only giving me 1, I have to write the other solution. So I have to know that, oh, it would be -1 and +1, right? So once again, if I had square root of 9, right? Maybe, there we go. It gives me 3, but it would be 3 and -3. So you have to understand your calculator doesn't give you all the answers. You have to know, which is why we do the part at the beginning where we say, how many answers should I have? Now, all right, now if I move over here and I want to do this number, right? All right, I want to take the square root of both sides. I want to undo that square. I'm expecting 2 solutions, right? I'm going to x equal and x equal. And so I'm going to do second, and then I'm going to get that square root and then 0.95 and hit enter. And so once again, notice it only gives me the positive answer, which is 0.97. All right, but then I also have to say, oh yeah, that's right. I was expecting that one, right? Because a negative times a negative gives me a positive, and a positive times a positive. Okay. All right, so looking at problem 7-8. So let's look at our exponentials together, right? So once again, we have our exponentials, right? I don't have to worry about any distribution here. I don't have to worry about any combined like terms. So let's get it equal to 0. So it's a +3, so I have to subtract 3. So 3 times 2 to the x minus 12 is equal to 0. All right, positive 3.8, so I'm going to subtract 3.8, subtract 3.8. Okay, so 3.7 times 2 to the x. All right, grab my calculator here. All right, so negative 9.3 minus 3.8 is negative 13.1 is equal to 0. Now we're into that 0 property, right? What minus 12 is 0? That would be positive 12. So 3 times 2 to the x is 12. Okay, what minus 13.1 is 0? That would be positive 13.1. All right, so 3.7 times 2 to the x is 13.1. Now, 3 times what is 12? That would be 4. Or I could divide, right? 3 divided by 3 is 1. That leaves me the 1, 2x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. All right, here I'm going to do that for sure because I definitely don't know that fact, right? I did not know what 3.7 times what is 13.1. So I will do the formal work there. All right, and then we do 13.1 divided by 3.7, and that's going to be 3.5. All right, and once again, we have 1 decimal here, so I'm going to look here. So there's my first decimal. I'm going to look at the decimal right after it. If it's 4 or less, I'm going to round to this number. If it's 5 or greater, I would round it up. So I'm going to say 3.5. Now here is an exact answer, right? So 2 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the first power is 2, right? 2 squared is 4. All right, so we know x has to be 2. Now, once again, you're going to estimate on these. All right, so for all of our exponentials, right, it requires some math that you won't learn until algebra 2. All right, so we're going to estimate all these, but 2 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the first power is 2, 2 squared is 4, right? So I know it has to be somewhere between 1 and 2. 3.5 is pretty close to 4, so I'd round here, all right? And let's say 1.8. All right, so once again, I'm looking for the fact that you should give me an answer between 1 and 2. All right, so let's flip the page and let's just summarize real quick, right? Okay, so to undo, right, we always want to do the opposite. So we want to use subtraction to undo addition. All right, we want to use addition, all right, to undo subtraction. All right, we want to use division to undo multiplication. We want to use multiplication to undo division, right? So we want to use subtraction. We want to use addition. Now, and I'm just going to put like 12 divided by 4, right, like that. So when we do division, we don't use the division sign, we use the bar. All right, so we would definitely want to use the bar. And then multiplication, we use a dot. All right, we don't use the x because we already have variables of x in the problems lots of times. We don't want to confuse it, we use that dot. All right, now, so to solve the quadratic now, right, we're going to use that square root, right? That square root key, all right, to solve our quadratic. Now we're going to use estimation, all right, to continue to solve our exponentials if it's not exact, all right? Okay, so once again, that just summarizes everything that we've done in this unit, all right? So once again, there was nothing new to show you, all right? We just wanted to make sure that, okay, if I don't know how to do the mathematical fact in my head, what operation do I need to get there, all right? We'll talk more about this in class. So once again, as always, if you have questions or comments, make sure you have those ready to go, and I will see you for our final lesson together for this unit.